Novotny. Lots of big political news today. Two important retirements and Sarah Palin firing back at President Obama on nuclear arms. Today, Justice John Paul Stevens formally announcing his retirement. The leading liberal on the Supreme Court says he will step down at the end of the court's current session. Now, it means President Obama will get to appoint his second justice to the country's highest court. Also retiring, Democratic Congressman Bart Stupak. He, of course, the man at the center of the healthcare firestorm over abortion coverage. Facing Tea Party attacks from the right and a tough primary battle on the left, Stupak announcing today he's had enough.
My service to the people of Michigan have been one of the greatest honors of my life. But it's time to begin a new and exciting chapter.
From Michigan to New Orleans just hours ago, Sarah Palin taking center stage at the Southern Republican Leadership Conference and joining a chorus of criticism at the conference aimed squarely at President Obama.
Yes, we can kowtow to enemies, criticize allies, vacillate, bow, dither. Yes, we can, but somebody needs to tell the president just because we can does not mean that we should.
Asked earlier about Palin's recent criticism on his nuclear weapons policy, the president had this to say.
I really have no response to that. The last I checked, Sarah Palin's not much of an expert on nuclear issues.
And Palin had to come back for that one, too.
The president, with all the vast nuclear experience that he acquired as a community organizer, and still no accomplishment to date with North Korea and Iran.
Sarah Palin just a short time ago today. Elliot?
Thank you, Monica. Joining us now is Republican Congressman Ron Paul of Texas. He addresses the crowd tomorrow night at the SRLC and could stage an upset in the conference straw poll. Congressman Paul is with us via Skype. Congressman, thank you so much. First of all, to go to the biggest news of the day, Justice Stevens' retirement, will the Republicans in the Senate filibuster the president's nominee, whomever that may be?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't think they would have a rule and say we're going to filibuster no matter who it is. But they certainly have a right to debate it. They should if they just went along to get along and appoint the guy that, endorse the guy that was appointed. That wouldn't be anything. Their job is to investigate. If they don't like him, they're supposed to vote against him. I don't see why there's such a big deal over that.
Well, no question that they have the right to inquire and ask good probing questions, of course. But let me ask you this. If Justice Stevens were renominated, go back 30 years, if he were 30 years younger, if he were nominated today with his record, do you think the Republicans in the Senate would vote for him?
I have no idea because I can't look into their minds. But what we should look at is for a man that understands the Constitution, or a woman, and somebody that will protect civil liberties, will understand property rights, and if they don't, and that's what you believe in, you have an obligation to your constituents not to endorse somebody that you say you disagree with.
Congressman, let's jump now to the SRLC where you're going to be making your presentation, and there will be a straw poll. Will you pull a big upset and win that straw poll just as you did at CPAC?
I have no idea. I was pretty surprised about CPAC. I didn't expect that.
Well, do you think what Governor Romney is doing, where he is apparently, there are reports that he is buying tickets for people only if they will vote for him, is that fair play in this context?
Well, it's not fair, but I guess it's legal, and I guess that's the way it's been done in the past. So I'm much more pleased to get enthusiasm, and that's certainly what I have been able to get from the young people, especially the young people in colleges, because they are enthusiastic about me arguing the case for civil liberties, a different foreign policy, and free markets. That's what encourages people. So I wouldn't get much satisfaction if I were as wealthy as Mitt Romney and I bought some votes and I wouldn't get any satisfaction.
Let me jump onto an area where you and I actually agree, which makes us surprise some folks. We have both been intensely critical of the Fed and the role that the Fed played over the past many years in creating the bubbles that crashed, caused the cataclysm in our economy. Why, when you look at the current bills before the Senate and the bill that passed the House, there's virtually no fundamental governance reform at the Fed? Can that be changed, and what would you do to the Fed right now?
Well, I mean, if I had my druthers, I'd just get rid of it. But the first step is to at least know what they're doing. I have 319 co-sponsors of a bill that would audit the Federal Reserve. The Senate won't go along with that, so we'll have to fight it out in conference. But just to find out what they're doing, this power that they have to create $2 trillion, and they're so arrogant. Oh, yeah, we can take care of our buddies, and then we don't have to answer any questions.
Let me ask you this. Congressman, with the enormous political and political sway and popularity you have there across America, why have you not led the charge to force the Fed to release all the emails that it has with AIG, with Goldman Sachs? In other words, begin a popular crusade, just as you in effect created the Tea Party, on a specific issue of transparency at the Fed, so that we, the taxpayers, can understand what the Fed thought, what they did, and why they did it. Do you think there's any possibility of success there?
Well, I think we've actually accomplished that by getting such a strong endorsement for auditing the Fed. But, you know, when you're asking for narrow records, I see looking at all the records. So I've taken a broader brush. I want to know everything about it. I want to know who they loan the money to, like foreign governments and foreign central banks and international financial institutions, all the private things. The things that you mentioned are absolutely right and correct, but I know all that plus more. What they'd like you to do is look at some of these lending agencies, and they're conceding, well, I guess we better give you some of that information, and that'll satisfy everybody.
Congressman,
but it won't satisfy me. We need a much broader investigation of the...
Just so it's clear, I agree with you. I begin sometimes with that specific question. I think narrowing it so we can begin and get there, and then let's go out broader than that as we work forwards. Thank you so much for joining us, Congressman, and good luck in the straw poll, and have a good time down there at the SRLC.
Thanks a lot.
Now joining us, former Congressman from Oklahoma.